Okay, so we're still in Maui. It's probably not the best day to be here at the blowhole, but I'm just gonna give you some shots. It's a great place to see, and it's on the west side, right on the ocean. Very popular to be here, but we're gonna try to catch some really good shots of where the blowhole actually is gushing some water for you. It's very windy, so might just have it okay with the wind sound and just show you some footage.
That was fun footage to take. The island remains beautiful. Today I want to talk about emotions, and that's a pretty loaded word, right? I mean, in today's society we have rage, anger, fear, anxiety that tends to take the place of our joy. And if we don't learn to manage our emotions, then they're going to manage us, right? And it's just going to keep us from enjoying the fullness of life and the happiness that the Lord wants us all to have. So some of the things I've learned about managing emotions is that, first of all, it's really going to relate to being able to know and self-evaluate, kind of know yourself, asking the tough questions of when you do react in anger, or when certain things just kind of come and hit your spirit where it's like it just comes negative, right? Because somebody said something happened, or you opened even a piece of mail and it wasn't exactly what you had hoped for. When that comes, identify what that emotion is, and then ask yourself, where is it coming from? I mean, is this really real? I mean, is the thing that I'm afraid of really, is it really happened yet? And if it hasn't happened yet, then why am I so afraid right now? Why did fear rush in like so suddenly? Why do I immediately go to the worst case scenario of the horribleness of what is to happen when it really hasn't happened. And the same thing as far as like reacting to people, you know, even on the road. Like there's so much road rage out there, right? People cut you off and then like it's a real thing. And you know, there's a word called emotional intelligence, and I kind of call it, I always refer to it as emotional maturity. Like you need to mature, but that's, emotional intelligence is probably a better word, because age doesn't necessarily, just because you're really old in age doesn't mean you have a high emotional intelligence. I mean, there's lots of older people doing road rage, right? So it's not necessarily tied to your age. So emotional intelligence is related to how well you manage and know your emotions. It's the degree of which you're able to self-identify or be self-aware of what you're going through. Also an ability to communicate those emotions by not reacting emotionally to everything that comes your way, but actually responding in wisdom, responding from the heart. And I would say it's responding from love, really. I mean, we should always respond in love on things, and we always should aspire to that loving place. I mean, there's lots of different types of love. So even a love of a friend, a love of a business colleague, a love of my profession, so I'm going to carry myself professionally and do well, and I'm going to keep my emotions in check. I'm not going to let the emotions control me, but I'll control those emotions, and I will respond appropriately. A lot of times I even describe it as like just a matter of fact, like especially in a profession, and like when you're at work and that, it's good to keep emotions out, but just like I can see what's happening, like that perhaps that behavior that's not, you know, a behavior that is acceptable to me. So I may have to remove myself from the room, but I'll do it calmly if I do. You know, I just say, well, that's not a very constructive comment, and so we really need to go this direction. This is where we're headed or hope to achieve in this meeting, but if that's not possible, then we should probably just end the meeting right now. But I don't like lose my cool and temper and go off on it and start calling people names or anything like that. I mean, you know, the reality is, like, I was reading this article and they were talking about anyone with road rage has a low level of emotional intelligence. So that's what it said. So anyways, that might be one that we could all kind of relate to a certain extent, and we'll have our good days and our bad days. So, you know, all what we're supposed to do is just try to better ourselves. Another way that you can tell if you have low emotional intelligence is if you feel like you always need to have an answer to something, like, or you're kind of a know-it-all, like that when somebody speaks that you're trying to, I gotta show my worth and value by having a prepared answer right now, or always just kind of talking over the situation. I mean, obviously in that behavior, when it's too much, it's like you're trying to prove something to somebody, to them. Usually it's all about people pleasing instead of being truthful to yourself and just being okay with not having the answer, and like being open to the fact that, hey, this person's opinion might have some merit. Just be open to it and being gentle in the response as we have this conversation with others. Maya Angelou has a saying that I just love that's on this subject. I mean, she doesn't call it emotional intelligence, but it really plays into it well. She says, when you know you are of worth, you don't have to raise your voice. You don't have to become rude. You don't have to become vulgar. You just are. And you are like the sky is, like the air is, the same way water is wet. It does not have to protest. I just love that. When you know your value, when you know that you have been created wonderfully by a loving, wonderful, awesome Heavenly Father, and that you know that, and you've accepted your role as His child, then you know your value, and you know that you are worthy, and you are worthy, and you have value. And so you don't have to self-protect or prove to others or be a people pleaser and worry about the other person so much that causes you to react in a negative way. You don't have to. Many times these negative emotions are coming out of a place of just insecurity, really, and not knowing who you are as a wonderful person. And so when you know your worth, you're not going to raise your voice. And you'll just calmly respond because you know it's no big deal. It's just not worth, losing your joy, losing your peace. And just because somebody says something, by the way, doesn't make it true. So keep that in mind. God invites us into a relationship with Him. He invites us to live a way in our feelings where our heart and our emotions are connected to Him, to heaven, in such a way that we feel that the world around us and the people around us are really here to help us, and that they're not against us, and that He is here to help us, and that we are never alone. He invites us into that relationship, and all is welcome, all as is right now, as you are today. That's what He wants for us. And when we're in that place, and when we can walk with Him and know that He is here to help us, and we look through the lenses of optimism and hope, that other people too can help us. I mean, they don't mean to hurt us. That we can just walk our emotions out. Like, we will manage those emotions. I'm not saying that negative thoughts don't come to me. I mean, the emotions aren't there, but I keep them down and I don't let them just fly out of my mouth. And there's techniques that can be used to help with that. But the first one is to invite the Lord in and invite God into this process of knowing, asking Him just to help you with it, to take away. Like if the anger comes, then I'm like, I break off this anger, Lord, take it away from me, please. And I forgive that person, and I just bring me joy, bring me forgiveness, bring me peace, bring it back. And I do a prayer like that real quick, just like right when the emotion comes, like right when it creeps in, whatever happened to do it, but stop and give it consideration. And when we start, you have to first be aware that something's going wrong, first of all. So do that self-awareness. I think there's tons of stuff on the internet about it, of emotional intelligence. I think there's even tests out there. And just start checking it out to better yourself. It's worth the investment. It's worth the risk, so that we can just enter into the fullness of joy and happiness like God intended us to walk out our lives in. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Let me know of any topics that you are interested in hearing about, and I can certainly look at that and look into those topics. Also, if you haven't, like the video and subscribe and download the free PDF version of my book called A Father's Love. It tells you a little bit about myself and how to tap into the love of the Heavenly Father. So until next time, mahalo and aloha.